Hello and welcome to Education 602 Action Research. In this course you're going to get an overview of what educational research is, especially action research, and you are going to develop a proposal. So after you complete this class you are going to have part of your final capstone paper written. You'll have the research background, you'll have your methodology, and pretty much what you think you want to do for your final project. So in this class you're not going to actually do the research, you're just going to be preparing for it. I'm going to go over the syllabus with you, and I'm also going to spend some time showing you around Blackboard since this is an online course, and I wanted to make sure that you understand exactly what you need to do, get a good feeling for what the assignments look like, and in addition I want to let you know that we can meet in person if you would like. Some people can do fine completely online, some people need that face-to-face contact, and that's no problem at all. We can do that if you need it. Okay, so moving through the syllabus. The first thing, my instructor information, I want to make sure that you have that. Since this is summer, I'm not really going to be in my office very much, and so email is going to be probably your quickest way to get in touch with me. I check my email fairly frequently, at least morning, noon, and evening, and usually a few times in between depending on what else I have going on. So email is usually a pretty safe bet. Sometimes on the weekends you might not get a very quick response depending on what I have going on. Sometimes I'm not, or I don't have access to the internet. I also gave you my cell phone, so you can either send me, if you have a quick question that I don't have to look anything up and you want to just text me a question, that's fine. If it's something that I need to actually look up and verify, I would appreciate if you sent me an email, just so it's easier to respond to something like that in email than a small text. Or you're welcome to call me on my cell phone as well. Just keeping in mind, evenings and weekends I may not be able to answer the phone. I might not be immediately available, but just want to make sure that you have that information, and please do feel free to call me. I have no problem calling if you want to call me on my cell phone. Again, office hours, since this is summer, it says by appointment every day because I'm not in the office at a standard time. However, I am available, and if you are working and need to get together weekends or evenings, I can usually accommodate that as well. So if you are working through this and you think I just need some face-to-face, your phone call's not going to work and email's not going to work, send me an email, text, call me, and we'll set something up so we can meet face-to-face. It's not a problem. Your textbook is a Marzano book. Depending on what you're doing right now, you might be in a school that's used some of Marzano's work, so you might even already have this book. It's a good book to look at educational research and why we do it and putting it into action, which is really the whole point of doing research. You don't want to sit on a shelf, especially as a practicing teacher. You need to actually use this information. So I really enjoy this book. I think that you'll find there will be things in there that you can use right away in your practice. The course description, I've already gone over that a little bit. Looking at research, identifying good research and where to find research, not only for your action research proposal that you're going to write, but again in your practice. If your district is talking about adopting a new program, or you're curious about something you heard about, I want you to have the skills to go and find information about that and make a judgment about whether or not that research is valid and whether or not that program or product is worth your time. Our course objectives, again, looking at research, what's important, what's good, what's not good, and knowing how to write this proposal, particularly the review of the literature. That's going to be a huge portion, and you'll complete an annotated bibliography. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the individual assignments. Looking for appropriate literature, stating your research problem, hypothesis, and questions. These are very important steps to your action research, and you may go through a few different problems. You might go through a few different forms before you settle on the one thing you really want to work on, and that's part of what we do in this course. So instead of in one semester trying to do all of this at once, this semester you're just going to look at what do I want to study, and then next time when you take the next course you're going to look at, okay, this is how I'm going to do it, and you're going to get in a little more detail. So it gives you a chance to explore a little bit. We're going to look at assessment data, again with action research. If you do this in your classroom, you're going to be using live students, you're going to be doing pre-tests, you're doing formative assessments, so we're going to spend some time looking at what effective assessment looks like. Ethical and legal issues, very important when you're talking about research, and looking at your own personal perspectives as we're looking through your problem. And then, of course, communicate competently in a variety of contexts. You will be doing quite a bit of written work, but you're also going to be doing in-person proposal presentation to your classmates. So you'll get a couple different ways of communication in here. All right, going on down, grading skills. You get, there's a certain number of points in the class. Whatever you earn, divide that by the total number, multiply by 100, and that's going to be your grade. I do round to the nearest whole number. That's really important. As you know, in education courses, you need to get at least a B minus, which is an 80%. That means if you have a 79.4 average, when I round that, the nearest whole number is a 79, which is a C plus. And I do hold to that. And I always want to make sure students understand that I round to the nearest whole number, whatever that math comes up. So 79.4 is not passing. That would be a C plus. So make sure you don't get too close to that mark so you don't have to worry about that. I do have due dates. I stick to my due dates. When you turn in your work, you will get your work back almost 100% of the time within 24 hours of the due date. You are welcome to turn your work in early. I may be able to return it to you early. I may not. It depends on what else I have going on. But I can guarantee 99.9% of the time that if something is due, for instance, on June 19th, you have an assignment due, you will have that assignment returned to you by June 20th. And usually it's within a couple hours of that due date. So you will get a pretty quick turnaround on your assignments. Sometimes life happens, and I understand that, and you might not be able to turn something in on the due date. I'll accept a late assignment within 24 hours of the original due date. So for instance, your first assignment is due June 19th at midnight. You have until June 20th at midnight to turn that in. You will receive a 10% grade penalty, though, on that late work. You will not be able to resubmit that paper for a redo, and it might not be graded within 24 hours. Any late work gets put to the bottom of my grading pile. So I only grade late work once I've finished everything else that I have to do. So sometimes you'll get it back fairly quickly, sometimes you're waiting a couple weeks. So you do have a little bit of a buffer there if something happens, but be aware that there are some penalties attached to that. And in addition, I want to make sure that you know I do not accept technical difficulties for excuses for late work. If you are having trouble logging onto Blackboard and you waited until 11:55 and you couldn't get it in until 12:03, that's late, and you're going to have the penalties for late work. So just think ahead, give yourself a little bit of a buffer in case something happens so that you don't end up coming down to the wire with that. The only time I will accept technical difficulties is if there's a campus-wide breakdown on Blackboard or something. Obviously I'll accept that, but otherwise I don't accept any excuses for late work. You'll get those penalties attached. Okay, so I mentioned resubmissions. Most of the time you'll be able to do a resubmission for one assignment, and I'll talk about, there's a couple exceptions to that, but almost all of your work, as long as you turn it in on time, you can resubmit one of those assignments if you didn't like your grade. So you can only do it once, though. So when I return your work and I mention 10 different things that you need to change in order to get an A, make sure you change all of those 10 things. If you do a resubmission and you only fixed one thing, I'm not going to correct it. I need to see that you actually went through and tried to fix all of those errors. If you still made mistakes but you attempted to fix it, that's okay, I'll grade that. But if I see that you just didn't even bother with half the comments, I won't regrade it. You get the grade that you got. So you can do that for one assignment throughout the semester. You'll resubmit those on Blackboard, and you have 1 week after the original due date to do that resubmission. So again, I'll use that June 19th example. You turn in your IRB reflection on June 19th. I give it back to you June 20th, and you got a C on it because you misunderstood something. So you decide, I need to resubmit this. You can resubmit that. You have until June 26th, which is 1 week after the June 19th date, to resubmit that work to me. So you only get one resubmission. Be careful. I would save, if you had like a A minus on something, I probably wouldn't worry about that. You might want to save your resubmission ticket until later. Some of my students call this the Willy Wonka golden ticket. You get, one redo, so use that wisely. And again, I put lots of feedback on your work, so you should be able to really bring anything up to an A if you resubmit. And if you don't understand any of my feedback, please let me know and I'll explain it to you further or meet with you and go into more detail so that you can get your work in and get a better grade. Format and submission, especially since this is a research class, I am a stickler on APA format. On Blackboard I have some resources you can go to if you're not very familiar with APA, but please be aware that I do watch that in all my courses, and especially in this course, it is a graduate level research class. I expect you to have very, very good APA formatting. In particular, and if I see any of these things missing, your grade drops. 12 point Times New Roman font, that's essential. 1-inch margins, double spaced, no extra spaces between paragraphs. That is something, if you are using Word, you need to go in and change your settings because the default is to add extra spaces between paragraphs. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. You should have a title page with every assignment. You should have a running head with every assignment. Most of your assignments will also have a references list if you are referring to another article or something from the book. So some won't, but most will. Alright, all work must be submitted through Blackboard. I do not accept emailed assignments. So everything has to go through Blackboard, and I'm going to give you a separate tutorial on how to do that in case you're not sure. And all documents must be in Word format. So if you're a Mac user, make sure you figure out how you can save your work so that it'll come up as a rich text file or a Word format so that I can open it. Those are the only forms that I accept. All of your assignments will have an assignment overview document, and I'll show you how to get into that. And that goes into the course objectives, an overview, exactly what you need to do, and a rubric. Also, please note that rubric, you need to copy and paste the rubric onto the end of each of your assignments. I can't grade the assignment without a rubric, and I'm not going to go in and copy and paste that for you. So make sure that you've copied and pasted that rubric, and also I'm going to show you how to do this. I also want you to bold the cell of what you think that you did. So I want you to self-check your work before you turn it in, and then you're going to turn it in with that rubric attached, and then I'll add my notes and my grade, and you'll be able to see exactly what you did. These are a list of the assignments. I'm going to go over those in separate documents. The grading scale is pretty standard. Just a reminder, you need to have a B- or better in order to satisfy program requirements. Some notes here: if you do have a disability, please let me know so I can provide you the accommodations that you need. Here's a list of the course assignments as well as the objectives that go with those and the due dates. So all your due dates are here. Again, I'm going to go through each of these separately in separate documents. I'll go through all of the different pieces. Also at the end of every assignment sheet you'll see a YouTube explanation, and I'm going to have the link to that. So obviously the link isn't on this one yet since I'm still recording it, but all of your documents you'll be able to click on and go into the YouTube explanation. I would ask that if you're not sure of something, that you make sure you watch that YouTube explanation before you ask me questions. I'm happy to answer questions, but just make sure you've done your homework first and you went through and read the document, listened to the YouTube, and then if you still didn't understand something, please let me know so I can clarify it for you. But hopefully these explanations and the documents themselves will help you so that you can figure out what you need to do as easily and quickly as possible. Alright, I'm going to give you a separate video on Blackboard, and then you can go into the different modules to see the other videos for all of the various assignments. And you'll be able to see how to do that by watching the Blackboard tutorial next. Welcome to Education 602. I hope you have a great time. Action research, yeah.